Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey, Jason, John, Pauline, Dylan, Mel. No Ben Mandel again. He's going to miss out on some AL and NL Central talk.
And we all wore the same outfits as last week.
It's called good luck. Keep the same vibes. I think these two divisions are the two divisions that have the most, interchangeable possibilities from top to bottom. White Sox notwithstanding, about who could win and who's going to come in last.
But I mean, it's like I said last year. These are like one of the most fun divisions to watch.
A lot of really fun players, a lot of teams that aren't great, but still, scrappy and fun. Do the White Sox win 50 games? Who knows? But, let's kind of start it off hot with the AL Central. Last year, the Guardians went all the way to the ALCS. They were 92-69. The Royals, they went to the ALDS, 86-76. And the Tigers went to the ALDS, 86-76.
Powerhouse.
We all talked throughout all of last season about how weak the AL Central is, and they ended up having 3 teams out of the last 4 in the American League. It was a very weird time, given that, the Tigers knocked out the Astros, the Royals knocked out the Orioles. Was it luck? Was it skill? Combination of both. The Orioles were caught at a bad time. They were, spiraling for a while. The Astros were just kind of treading water after being pretty hot in the mid part of the summer. Then the Twins, who were, widely picked to win the division last year, 82-80, followed by the White Sox, who were historically bad, 41-121.
Hey, if you're gonna
the
suck,
Guardians
be the
won
best at
92.
it.
The Guardians won 92 games, and the Royals were still 51 games behind them.
The White Sox.
The White Sox were 51 games behind the Guardians in the standings. The Guardians didn't win 100 games. Imagine if, the Dodgers were in this division, and they won their 101 games.
Goodbye, Seattle
Imagine
Mariners
seeing
record.
a team 60 games back in baseball.
Goodbye, Seattle Mariners record if the Dodgers were in this division.
This is just insane how bad the White Sox were. And I think it's a real question of, did they actually get better? Because I don't know if that answer is yes. So, Pacoda does their projections like we talk about. And I do think they're a great way to kind of gauge what is a very, realistic possibility and how things will shake out. The Twins are expected to win this division 87-75, followed by the Royals 81-81. Now, no team in the 90s, and then second place at 500. Cleveland 80-82, Detroit 79-83, White Sox 62-100. Outside the White Sox winning 21 more games than they did last year, what's the most surprising thing about these projections for you guys?
I would just say only one team over 500 kind of surprises me. I'm not saying that we're going to see some 95 win team come out of this division, but 3 of the last 4 teams remaining in the AL were from this division. And I would argue that 2 of them got better. So to just completely be 81-81 for a team in the Royals who, I think overachieved many people's initial thoughts of them, but proved to be a good team, is odd to me, especially in a weak AL. It's not like the AL's strong.
100% agree.
I mean, I feel like maybe some of the teams maybe overperformed last year.
Fair.
But I don't think they overperformed by much. I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think there's gonna be that much of a drop off. I feel like you're still gonna see. I feel like you're gonna have at least 2 teams over 500.
You would think.
I would have to think.
I'd be really surprised if not.
So here, we'll take the Guardians, for example. They have the Guardians in 3rd place, under 500. They were in the ALCS, and they brought back Shane Bieber, 2 for 26. He didn't pitch last year, really. They brought back Carlos Santana, 1 for 12. Paul Sewald, the reliever, bolster their bullpen a bit, 1 for 7. Jake Junis, 1 for 4.5. Austin Hedges, who's done great work with them in the past, 1 for 4. They even brought in John Means, 1 for 1. Now, they lost Matthew Boyd to the Cubs, Alex Cobb to the Tigers, Scott Barlow to Cincinnati, Connor Gillespie to Atlanta, Miles Straw they traded away to Toronto. They traded away Josh Naylor to Arizona, like we spoke about last episode. They got rid of Andres Jimenez to Toronto. So, like, I don't know where they were thinking with that because Jimenez was so good. Naylor, I know they wanted Manzardo to kind of take over first base. But how do you guys feel about Cleveland? They also got rid of Eli Morgan. They sent him away. He was one of their, good arms in the bullpen.
I think Cleveland is never a team on paper that blows you away, yet is always scrapping in the AL playoffs, yet is always competing for and in many cases winning this division. They have Jose Ramirez, a top 10 hitter in baseball. They still have Clase, I would say still the best closer in baseball, and guys like Quan, Thomas, throughout the lineup that I expect to be able to produce. Cleveland finds a way. Well managed team.
I think you're right. I think you nailed it. Well managed. Vogt really showed in his rookie year how good of a manager he can be. I mean, John, do you think that under 500 is a real realistic expectation for these guys?
I don't think so. I mean, for Cleveland, kind of reminds me of the Brewers in a way, because I feel like Cleveland's they've kind of been like the team there, kind of like, I mean, never been a strong division, but like they've always kind of been towards the top almost every year for
Right.
for a while. But now you have all these other teams starting to get have young players coming up, and they're starting to get good. So now they're starting to have to like fend them off and keep that up there. So I mean, I don't know if the other teams are still where they are, but I mean, it's possible. I don't know if like under 500, maybe 500 even.
It's just very weird how they simmed the
Yeah.
season 1,000+ times and got Cleveland under 500 as the most likely outcome. But then you have the Royals who, they have at 500, and they added in Carlos Estevez, 2 for 22, a reliever. Michael Lorenzen they brought in, 1 for 7. He's a starter. Jonathan India, they traded for to play second base. They also brought in Joey Weimer in that same deal with Cincinnati. He's an outfielder. They sent away Brady Singer to Cincinnati, but I think they got back really good value. They lost Paul DeJong to Washington. They lost utility man Adam Frazier to Pittsburgh, Tommy Pham to Pittsburgh. I don't think what they lost outweighs what they brought in, plus a healthy Vinny Pasquantino. Salvi's still there. Bobby Witt, outside of Judge, I would say he's the favorite for the MVP.
Yep.
Like, he came on and just was fantastic. They
I
had a
mean,
really good team last year, and I just don't know if they're going to take that far of a step back and be 500.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say that this team can't repeat what they did offensively and maybe not even improve. I think the team is top to bottom of the lineup, got a lot of good, bat to ball guys, a lot of guys that can put the ball in play. It's going to sound redundant, but this is a team that could play all facets of baseball well in the lineup. Bobby Witt Jr., again, if you told me Aaron Judge didn't win the MVP and I had to put money on who did, it would be Bobby Witt. The pitching, it doesn't jump off the page to you, but it didn't last year, and it was good enough, and it was serviceable. And these guys, Raggins, Lugo, Waka, performed at a high level. So, again, I think 81 and 81 projection for this team is too low.
I agree with Dylan here. I mean, maybe they're banking on maybe they're thinking that their pitching is going to regress, because I mean, I think maybe Lugo did kind of overperform last year with an ERA. I think if it was just like 3 even, and I feel like that's going to be kind of hard to do again this year. But I mean, I think to have like maybe 3 or 4 like, I think I don't remember. I think it was like 3 or 4 pitchers again this year that have like a sub 4 ERA. I mean, is probably very likely. So, And I think if you have like 3 or 4 pitchers going with a sub 4 ERA, maybe close to like, low 3, I mean, I feel like you're going to end up going over 500.
I think odds are they probably will. Then you have the Tigers, who were that third team that, kind of surprised everybody. AJ Hinch, we all know, is a great manager, but Tarek Skubal, the Cy Young winner, really came on. And, Pacoda has them going a couple games under 500. And they added Jack Flaherty, they kind of brought him back after sending him away to the Dodgers, 2 for 35. They brought in Gleyber Torres to play second base. That's going to be an interesting tandem up the middle with Gleyber and Javi Baez. Gleyber 1 for 15. Alex Cobb 1 for 15 to bolster that starting rotation. Tommy Tight Pants, Tommy Canley 1 for 7.75 with that bullpen. They needed another arm, which was a really good add there. Another reliever, John Brebbia, 1 for 2.25. They only lost Alex Fado, and they traded him away to Tampa. So
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fun team. The pitching's there. It's just how much will the lineup work out? How much can AJ Hinch get out of these guys? That's going to determine if they get back to the playoffs or not.
I think defensively, though, is a huge question mark.
I mean, the IQ of Javi Baez and Gleyber Torres, like, best of luck.
I mean, you had Kerry Carpenter, who's a really great player. They have a bunch of guys coming up, right? Any prospects for us, John?
I think he's up with them now, but I think he came up like the end of last year and pitched. Jackson Jobe, he's going to be a starting pitcher for them, and I think he's a guy to look out for this year.
Yeah, I love their starting pitching.
So yeah, they're going to be a really, really good, fun team. And then once they find, once guys like was it Riley Green can really come on, Spencer Torkelson is still there. Once those guys find their groove, they could be a dangerous team too. But then you go to the Twins, who, they could have been good last year. They have a few good players. I really like Royce Lewis, but he's always hurt. They added Harrison Bader to play the outfield, 1 for 6.25. Danny Colomé, 1 for $3 million, I should say, is a reliever. Ty France, they brought in to play first, $1 million. They lost Carlos Santana to Cleveland in their division. Max Kepler, the outfielder, went to Philly. Kyle Farmer, the shortstop, went to Colorado. And reliever Caleb Thieker went to the Cubs. So my issue with the Twins is I don't know if they got considerably better or was last year more of an issue with health. What do you guys think?
Both, but I have no reason to believe that Byron Buxton or Royce Lewis are going to be healthy players this year either. It sucks to say, but we talked about the Angels last week. Do I think that they'd be better than the A's if Mike Trout played a full 162? Probably. Would I expect Mike Trout to play north of even 140 games? No, I don't. So that's kind of how I feel about some of the main contributors here in Minnesota. And I think there's a reason that they finished where they did last year.
And then you got the White Sox. Oh, those poor fans. How are they still there? They added in their big free agent was Martin Perez, a starter for 1 year, $5 million. They brought in the utility man Josh Rojas, 1 year, $3.5 million. Mike Tauchman, outfielder, 1 year, $1.95 million. Austin Slater, an outfielder, 1 for $1.75. Reliever Bryce Wilson for a 1 year, $1.05 million. And I feel like their losses are much worse, are much better players than the players they brought in.
They had good players?
Well, Mike Soroka is not a bad player, and he went to Washington. Yoel Moncada, who we wanted on the Yankees, went to the Angels. So those are two guys that can actually contribute on, playoff caliber teams in some regard.
Benintendi hurt. Not that he's a loss, but he's hurt.
Did you guys see what they were selling his jersey for on Fanatics? A Benintendi jersey?
It's like
$350 for a Benintendi jersey.
Best player on the team after they trade Luis Robert. I can't believe they didn't trade him in the offseason or at the deadline.
No, but they got rid of Crochet to the Red Sox.
Yep.
Another one they lost. I
They
just
got Joey Gallo. They'll be all right.
I just don't know what to think of this. Like, I know Pacoda has him at 62. Last year, we saw with our own eyes 41.
I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Oh, I think the thing is, I think the thing is not to go over under with wins, but over under with losses. Over under 110 losses.
Which puts him at about 50-ish
50.
wins.
Yeah,
I-
that sounds about right.
That
At what point does like Major League Baseball have to step in and like
Oh, create a
Force
salary cap
cap
minimum?
and a floor.
no? I was
Oh.
just going to say
Like a
enforce
floor
ownership
is-
to sell.
Oh,
Like Jerry Reisendorf does not.
I feel like
deserve-
I mean, there's so many teams that have just
he's
been
trying to
bottom
move
of
them
the
out of Chicago.
Okay, but the White Sox, the Rockies, the A's, like these have been bottom of the barrel teams our entire life. And we are in our mid-20s.
And they don't
which
really
is funny because
sign
like the
people.
Rockies and White Sox both made the World Series about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the A's were in the playoffs pretty consistently for like a 3-4 year stretch at the end of the 2010s. Like they randomly became good.
Yeah, and then they were like, "Ooh, ownership doesn't want to pay for good players.
Well,
Get them out of
this is
here."
Only 5 years ago, people were talking the White Sox up as the next up and coming dynasty.
I think the truth of the matter is, and I'm not pushing this on the White Sox, but we're just talking about bad teams. I think some people, like Steve Cohen, have an MLB team to have fun and try and compete and are fine taking a loss. And I think some people have an MLB team that their only goal is to make money. And since all the profits are shared, they could field the worst team possible and not pay anybody and collect a nice check at the end of the year.
It's kind of embarrassing, and that's I think the biggest issue. I know the MLBPA came out and said that after the CBA expires in 2026, expect another work stoppage.
Yeah, I mean, something's going to have to change there in terms of probably a salary cap floor.
A cap will never happen in baseball just because all the contracts.
I think like a minimum though. Like I think they could introduce
Right.
a salary minimum.
A
Like
salary
you have to have
floor
at
would
least
make
this much
sense.
on your payroll. Yeah.
But like, and we could talk about it more in depth at some point when it becomes more of a reality. But instead of a hard floor, have it kind of mirror the luxury tax, almost like a luxury floor, where if you're below a certain point, you don't get to partake in the revenue sharing. Since a lot of the teams that are over the luxury tax have to pay a tax on every dollar they spent above, up to like over 100%. The teams that are below should be, not getting any benefits for that. There's no reason to spend, $40 million on a payroll while some players are making themselves 50 something million dollars in the season.
Yeah.
But is
For
that going
sure.
to make teams better though without a salary cap though? Because I mean, like if other teams like the Dodgers are just snapping up all the good players, like are you just going to end up overpaying for like an above average player and give him like a huge contract?
I think
just
it
to-
will make you want to field a competitive roster because you're already paying that money anyways.
Right. And there's other stuff to go into it, but let's kind of do our predictions now. Ben not here. I have his. First place, Ben has the Tigers winning the division. I have the Royals.
I have the Royals.
I have the Tigers.
All right. This is going to be one of those mix and matches. I don't think any of us are going to have the same. I'd be surprised. Second place, I have Cleveland, as does Ben.
I have the Tigers.
I have the Royals.
Next up in third place, I have the Tigers. Ben has Minnesota.
I have Cleveland.
I have Cleveland too.
Fourth place, I have Minnesota, and Ben has Kansas City in fourth place.
I have Minnesota.
I have Minnesota also.
And I think we can all agree the White Sox will be in last.
Yeah, me and John are pretty close. It's just Royals Tigers swap.
We're on the same page, and I think Ben's sleeping on the
Dylan,
Royals.
me and you are close too. We have Cleveland and Tiger swap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Why is Ben sleeping on the Royals?
Yeah, Ben
Oh,
has the
now
Royals
we have a lot to talk about.
Like, there's
the
a- like,
Royals
this
and the
is-
A's. This guy is sleeping.
We're just gonna have a
and
special
Jurickson Profar.
Ben episode. We're not even gonna go over things. We're just gonna like ask Ben questions about.
the
He gives us the hot
interrogation.
takes and then just doesn't
Just-
show.
Just
Wait till you see his predictions for the NL Central. That's what I'm saying. So we got the NL Central. You had the Brewers win the division. The Central is one of those divisions where it's just kind of weird. Like all the teams seem to not be too far apart from each other, top to bottom,
Yep.
even though the records might not reflect that. Like the Brewers won it last year, 93 and 69, 10 games ahead of the Cardinals, who were in second at 83 and 79. And they were an old team. I just don't feel like the Brewers on paper played as good as their record showed. The Cubs were in third, 83 and 79, followed by the Reds at 77 and 85, and the Pirates at 76 and 86. Pacoda, like we've been following the last few divisions, they have the Cubs winning the division at 92 and 70. And then another one where second place is the Brewers at 80 and 82. One team above 500. Cardinals at 78 and 84. Pirates at 76 and 86. And then the Reds in last at 75 and 87. So again, more interesting, predictions from Pacoda for the Central Division. Let's kind of look at the Brewers. The Brew Crew won last year, their division, got knocked out by the Mets in the wild card round. They added in starting pitcher Elvin Rodriguez, 1 year, $900,000. They added in pitcher Grant Wolfram at 1 year, $760,000. And then they made a trade with the Yankees. They brought in Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin, who should get some action at some point, the infielder. And they sent away Devin Williams, their closer. Okay. In addition to losing Devin Williams, their star closer, top 5, if I want to give him some cushion closer in baseball, top 3 in actuality. Could he even be arguably the best?
Yeah, him or Class A.
They lost Willie Adames to San Fran. They lost Frankie Montas to the Mets. Gary Sanchez went to Baltimore. Colin Ree went to the Cubs. Joe Ross went to Philly. Bobby Miller went to the Rangers. The Brewers lost a lot. And I don't know if they have the ability to really weather that. Corbin Burns was a star for them, and he's now 2 seasons removed. You have Brandon Woodruff, who should make his return this year, but can he be the ace that they need? How are you guys feeling about the Brewers, and is their reign as the NL Central's team to beat over?
Yeah, to answer the second part of your question, absolutely. I still think the Brewers, though, similar to the Guardians, it's a well-run team that the lineup never looks absolutely stunning on paper, yet they're always in the mix, so I don't want to completely count them out. But this is one of the worst Brewer teams that I've seen in recent memory.
Absolutely. And then you got the Cardinals. I mean, John, did you have a point on the Brewers?
No, I was just agreeing with them. I'm not can't add anything
to
that.
Well, here's something you can add too, because the Cardinals didn't add anything. They didn't add a single player this offseason. We're in March. The offseason happened. Did somebody not tell them that it started? Why do you think they wouldn't add a single player? And then also, why is Arenado still there? When do they move him?
I don't know what they're waiting for. Honestly, I have no clue what they're waiting for moving him.
Waiting for an offer from the Yankees that they like.
I don't know. I'm assuming
chance they get that.
They were quiet this offseason because they want all the money, like money freed up.
I feel like quiet's putting it nicely though. Like,
yeah,
this is like, deafening silence.
Yeah, I mean, that's not like deafening silence because at least they had like trade talk. It's not like it's
trade talks.
Yeah, but that's like
not trades, trade talks.
Yeah, but trade talks is better than just no talk at all. Like they're just existing.
They had no talk at all with free agents.
I think you can argue that it's worse because like they're talking with other teams, so they know the offseason started. They know that they can make moves, and they decided not to.
They're gonna make moves next year. Just wait. They're gonna have a crazy offseason next year.
Yeah, next year, what's that do for the Cardinal fan now? they lost Paul Goldschmidt to the Yankees. Andrew Kitteridge went to Baltimore. They still have a couple guys that are free agents, like Matt Carpenter, Kenyon Middleton, the reliever, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, a couple starters. Part of that old rotation they thought was going to work out real well for them.
I fell for that trap too, to be fair.
But I just don't understand why they not even like here we looked at the Brewers outside of the trade with the Yankees. The two guys they signed were for under $1 million. 900,000 and 760,000. The Cardinals didn't even do that.
Maybe the NL Central had a pact to take the offseason off, and one team really didn't listen.
Two teams, if you really want to say that. Like here, let's talk about the Cubs now, right? The Cubs, they added in Matthew Boyd, the starter, 2 years for $29 million. Carson Kelly, a catcher, 2 years, 11.5. Justin Turner, their DH now, 1 year for $6 million. Colin Ree, the starter, 1 year for $5 million. Caleb Thieber, reliever, 1 year, 2.75 million. John Birdie, the infielder, formerly playoff starting first baseman, 1 year, $2 million. They traded for Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley from the Cubs. They brought those from the Astros, I should say. They brought those guys in. Eli Morgan from Cleveland. Cody Poteet from the Yankees. Ryan Brazier from the Dodgers. Vidal Bruin from the Marlins. Like, they made a lot of moves. They were wheeling and dealing. Tucker and Presley were two separate trades. They weren't in the same deal. Now, they lost Jorge Lopez to Washington, Kyle Hendricks to the Angels, Mike Tauchman to the White Sox, Nick Madrigal went to the Mets. He's out for the year, it looks like. Sean Armstrong to the Rangers. They traded away Cody Bellinger to the Yankees, Isaac Paredes to Houston, Hayden Wesneski to Houston. I mean, the Cubs, they did a lot, but did they do enough to really get themselves near the Dodgers level?
I mean, I don't know if anybody's on that level on paper, but I do love what the Cubs did. I think the Cubs really made an effort to put themselves in World Series NLCS conversations. I think the NL Central runs through Chicago, and we'll get to that. I'm a big fan of what they got going on.
I like what the Cubs did too. I mean, I think they put themselves in the spot to dominate the Central there and kind of really pull away from the pack there, because I think with the rest of the teams, I think they're all like like we talked about, they all just seem really close. And I think this, the Cubs, really wanted to pull away this year, and I think they did.
And then you have the Reds, the other team that didn't sleep on the offseason. They added in Nick Martinez, a starter, 1 year for $2 million, 1 year, 21.05. That was the qualifying offer. Austin Hayes came over, the outfielder, 1 year for $5 million. Scott Barlow, now a reliever, 1 year, $2.5 million. They traded for Brady Singer from the Royals. They brought in Gavin Lux from the Dodgers to play second base. Taylor Rogers came over to be a reliever there from San Fran. Jose Trevino from the Yankees. They filled a lot of holes. They lost Jake Junis to Cleveland. Justin Wilson, the reliever, went to Boston. Ahmed Rosario went to Washington to play some infield. Ty France plays first base now for the Minnesota Twins. They traded away Jonathan India to Kansas City, like we said earlier. And then for Jose Trevino, Fernando Cruz, a reliever, and Alex Jackson went to the Yankees. Now, Cruz had over 4.5 ERA last year, but the Reds bullpen wasn't great. And Alex Jackson was a minor league free agent that they signed back in November. So they traded away a lot. They made a lot of deals. They have a lot of good players. Hunter Green's a player I've always been high on. I think the Reds, they're in a weird spot. They could be a good team. They could also be a really bad team. Do you guys think that they could make any noise?
In the Central, I think they can make noise, and I think with the 17 playoff, they could get in for sure and be a fun, exciting team. Kind of the way that we viewed the Diamondbacks going into the playoffs 2 years ago before they went on their run. Now, I'm not sitting here predicting that the Reds will make that run, but I think they could be viewed in a similar light this regular season to the way the Diamondbacks were 2 years ago during the regular season.
I mean, I reiterate like how close I think this division is. And I'm really high on Hunter Green too, like you are. I like Nick Lodolo. And I mean, they have Ellie De La Cruz. And I mean, I think, forget, someone was just saying Ellie De La Cruz, someone, I forget who it was, thinks that he might be the first MLB player to get $1 billion contract. I don't know if you saw.
I wouldn't go
I
that
forget who
far.
said it, but they said they think he might be the first time we play to get a billion-dollar contract.
Let's find the second player that's going to get the Juan Soto contract first.
Do the Cincinnati Reds have $1 billion?
I don't think it's going to be from the Reds, but but it's just I think they just have I think they gonna have a really good young team, and I think they can make some noise.
They're a good team, but the Reds are only worth $1.25 billion.
Yeah,
They
that's
basically have to give him
that's all
93
Lily.
They're gonna sell the team to Ellie. That's what they're
sell
gonna be
give
like.
Ellie the team.
They're gonna give be like they're gonna sell him the team.
But then you have the Pirates that round out this division. They added in Andrew Heaney, 1 year, $5.25 million. They brought back Andrew McCutchen. He's going to have his number retired in Pittsburgh one day. I'd assume future Hall of Famer, at least borderline, where there's an argument for him. 1 year, $5 million. Tommy Pham, 1 year, $4 million. Caleb Ferguson, 1 year, $3 million. They lost Aroldis Chapman to Boston. Connor Joe went to San Diego. Brian De La Cruz, the outfielder, went to Atlanta, but they have a full year of Paul Skeens.
Paul Skeens and friends.
Paul Skeens and friends. Jared Jones.
Jones.
Brian Reynolds is still there.
And they have a guy coming up, Bubba Chandler, who's going to be up, who I think is going to be what Jared Jones was like this past year. So,
my question is, what year do we think they trade Skeens and Jones?
Never.
No, come on, be realistic.
Never.
They can't have nice things in Pittsburgh. It's been written and said by the owner.
there's
$1 billion
no way.
contract.
I mean, Livy
No way
Dunn
they
seems to like
both.
Pittsburgh.
Livy Dunn's from Jersey, so what team's closest to Jersey? The Mets or the Yankees. But I mean, Skeens this is now his second season. He's going to get a big contract. Arbitration's going to wreak havoc on the Pirates with how he plays. I can see them trading him, in 2 years. They'll do the first arbitration with him. They'll see how the second one goes. But 2-3 years and then he's gone. Does he go to the Dodgers?
Don't talk like that to
No,
Pirates
that's
fans.
I mean, they know the deal.
You're speaking it into his existence now. Now that the Pirates fans are going to blame you.
Care about the Pirates. Pittsburgh's a beautiful stadium. I don't know if you guys have ever made it out there to see the Pirates play.
I've been to Pittsburgh, just I haven't seen the Pirates play.
That's the nicest stadium I've been to in Major League Baseball. They deserve so much better. They have O'Neal Cruz. They have some talent. I just don't know how long it's going to last in Pittsburgh because their owner is cheap. But let's see how we are going to predict this division. Let's go this way. John, you start us off. Who do you have winning the Central?
Cubs.
Dylan?
Cubs.
Ben also has the Cubs, while I say the Reds are going to win the division. Very high on the Reds and what they could possibly be. I have the Cubs in second, though. I think that's going to be a fight. Ben has the Reds in second. Dylan?
I also have the Reds in second.
And I have the Reds in second, too.
We really aren't listening to Pacoda, who says the Reds are going to come in last, 75 wins.
That's crazy.
I mean, last year, the Pacoda said the Braves were going to win the division last year in the NL East.
I mean, the Braves had some injuries, though.
I know, but it's like
really predict Acuna to be out for pretty much the whole year.
True, and Strider.
And Strider.
Yeah.
John, who do you have in third?
I cannot I cannot express like how close I have this as like a third, but I'm gonna go with the Pirates.
Ben also has the Pirates. What about you, Dylan?
I have the Brewers in third.
I have the Brewers in third as well. Fourth place, John.
The Brewers, like I said, this is really close. I was like, I'm conflicted here because I almost want to put I'm so close to having the Pirates and Brewers be interchangeable, but I'm gonna go with the Brewers at fourth. I think their time is up in the NL Central here, and I think it's gonna get away from them.
All right, Dylan, who's fourth place?
The Pirates.
Ben has the Brewers. I have the Pirates.
Oh, all of us have the Cardinals in last.
I was actually really close though between the Pirates and the Cardinals for 4th and 5th. I think the Cardinals are going to surprise.
You
by
can't say that. You predicted them to finish last in the division.
They're gonna make a surprise trade.
No. Well,
like a
I think
trade
they're
at
going to
the
surprise
deadline.
people and not be like as horrid. I do think all teams in the NL Central are going to be, 74 plus win teams.
I don't think they're gonna be bad. I just think they're gonna
I
be.
think they're going to be bad.
Like,
I
I
think
think
they're
the
that
Cardinals
bad.
could come in 4th place and surprise some people.
I think the
namely us.
Cardinals could win less than 65 games.
That's
think the-
definitely on the table.
Cardinals actually do really good, and they end up making a surprise like blockbuster trade at the trade
For Paul
deadline.
Skeens.
Skeens is a Dodger, and we all know it.
That's a weird way to pronounce Yankee.
You guys have any final thoughts on the NL or AL Centrals?
I've got the Cubs at 85.5 wins a couple weeks ago, threw 1.5 units on it. Pagoda predicted them to win 92, so that was a nice confidence boost to that bet.
If the Cubs have a rough first half, could we see them trade Kyle Tucker?
It'd have to be pretty rough, I think, but I guess it's on the board. The thing is, with a trade like that, after what everybody saw happen to the Yankees and Soto, you either have to be one, like a no doubt World Series contender, or two, believe in extensions in place.
Yeah, because Tucker and Vladdy now headline next year's free agency class. The last real headliners for a while. I don't know if they get Soto money. I don't even know if they crack 600 million. I would say no if you asked me right now. I don't even know which one of them would get more money. Tucker plays a more premium position. Vladdy, I think, is a better all-around player.
I think the contracts are probably pretty similar.
And I know I would take both of them on my team. But that's going to do it for us. AL, NL Central. Next step is going to be AL and NL East. I'm sure that's not going to cause any arguments or fights about, any players, where we rank teams. Maybe the Phillies come in first. Maybe the Phillies don't come in first.
Maybe
really
the Mets missed the playoffs. I don't know.
Everything's on the table. But we'll see you guys then. For John Pauline, Dylan Mel, Corey Jason, this is the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast, signing off.